Crash landing. The sky was purple. The air was still. John Keller opened his eyes slowly, his vision blurry from the impact. The sound of alarms inside his crashed pod had stopped. Everything was quiet now. He tried to move. His body hurt, but nothing seemed broken. He looked around. His ship had crashed into soft red sand. Strange blue plants grew nearby, glowing slightly. Above, 2 moons hung in the sky. This was not Earth. And this was definitely not the planet he was supposed to land on. John touched the side of his helmet. "Control, this is Keller. Do you read me?" Only static. No answer. The communication system was dead. He stepped out of the pod slowly. The sand felt warm under his boots. It was quiet. Too quiet. No wind. No animals. Just silence. He checked his oxygen level. The air was thin, but breathable. He took off his helmet and took a deep breath. It smelled sweet, like flowers. Strange. He looked up at the broken remains of his ship. Escape Pod 12. It had survived a meteor storm, barely. The main ship must have been destroyed. Was he the only one left? John turned on his scanner. No human signals nearby. But there was something else. A faint energy signal, about 2 kilometers away. He decided to check it out. Staying near the crash site would be dangerous if the pod exploded. He walked slowly, scanning the area. Red hills, glowing plants, and strange trees with silver leaves. Everything looked alien, yet peaceful. Then, he saw them. Footprints. Lots of them. They were small, delicate, and all had the same shape. Clearly not animal. They looked human, but feminine. He knelt down and touched one of the prints. It was fresh. Someone, or something, had passed here recently. "Hello?" he called out, but his voice echoed with no reply. As he moved forward, he noticed something else. Flowers, placed neatly along the path, almost like a welcome trail. That was strange. Too organized to be natural. After walking for some time, he reached a clearing. In the center stood a large stone structure half covered by vines. It looked like an ancient temple with glowing symbols on the walls. The energy signal was stronger here. John stepped closer. The symbols pulsed with blue light. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed through the air. "He has arrived." He froze. The voice had come from somewhere near, but he saw no one. "Who's there?" he said. No answer. John reached for his sidearm, but remembered he had dropped it during the crash. He was unarmed. The temperature dropped slightly. The wind began to blow. He turned around quickly and saw them. A group of figures stood at the edge of the clearing. Tall, graceful, and glowing slightly in the dim light. They were women. Or at least, they looked like women. Alien, but beautiful. Their skin was smooth, their eyes large and bright, and their clothes flowed like water. None of them spoke. They just stared at him. John raised his hand slowly. "I don't mean harm. I'm lost." One of them stepped forward. She smiled, gently. "We know who you are, John Keller." He blinked. "How do you know my name?" Another woman moved closer. "We've been waiting for a very long time." John stepped back. This was not right. How could they know him? He had never been to this planet. No contact, no missions here. This wasn't on any map. "What is this place?" he asked. The first woman gestured toward the temple. "This is Zarana, our world, and now it is your world too." "Why me?" She smiled again. "Because you are the first man to walk on this land. In centuries." His heart beat faster. Centuries? What did she mean? Before he could ask, the group moved closer, surrounding him. They didn't touch him, just looked at him, like he was something rare, something important. "You're making a mistake," he said. "I need to get back. My crew, Earth, you will not leave," the woman said calmly. Not yet. Suddenly, the symbols on the temple walls glowed brighter. A low hum filled the air. John turned to run, but something in his head pulsed. A sharp pain, then darkness. Everything went black. When he opened his eyes again, he was inside the temple, lying on a soft bed. Strange lights floated above him, and the same woman sat beside him. "Rest now," she said. "You have much to learn, and we have waited long enough." John tried to sit up, but his body was weak. Too weak. And deep inside, he felt something cold. He was not just a visitor here. He was part of something much bigger. And he had no idea what it was. The welcome. When John opened his eyes again, the room was silent. Too silent. Soft lights glowed on the walls. They didn't look like bulbs or torches, but living orbs floating in the air, pulsing gently like breathing creatures. He sat up slowly. The pain in his head was gone, but his body still felt heavy, like something inside him had changed. He looked around. The room was beautiful, peaceful, and strange. The walls were smooth stone, but warm like skin. Soft music played somewhere, far away, slow and calm, almost hypnotic. Then he saw her. The same woman from before. Tall, elegant, silver markings on her skin like tattoos. She was watching him silently. "You're awake," she said. John narrowed his eyes. "What did you do to me?" She smiled. "Nothing harmful. Your body was weak. You needed rest." John stood a bit shaky. "Who are you? What is this place? And how do you know my name?" The woman stepped closer. "My name is Elira. I am the High Speaker of the Zerari, and we know you because we were told to wait for you." John's heart skipped. "By who?" She pointed to the glowing wall. "The temple. It speaks to us. It shows us things, dreams, visions. It showed us your face long before you ever arrived." John stepped back. "That's impossible. I've never been here. I'm from Earth. We don't even know this planet exists." Elira nodded. "Yet here you are." Suddenly, the wall shifted, not like a door opening, but like the stone turned into liquid. Another figure stepped in, younger, smaller, but also alien in appearance. She looked curious, almost nervous. "This is Lyra," Elira said. "She has been asking to meet you since you landed." Lyra looked at John with wide, glowing eyes. "You're not like the others," she said softly. John frowned. "What others?" Elira interrupted. "Come, you need to see something." She led him through a long hallway. The walls showed moving images, like memories playing out, scenes, of men wearing strange suits surrounded by alien women, but the men looked afraid, confused. "What is this?" John asked. "Our history," Elira replied. "Long ago our people were not like this. We were many, male and female like your kind. But a war changed everything. We lost the males to a sickness brought from the stars." "What kind of sickness?" "A human sickness." John stopped, walking. "Wait, humans were here before?" Elira paused. "We don't know where they came from, only that they came from the sky. They didn't stay long. Some died, others changed. Their minds broke, their bodies decayed." She turned to face him. "You are the first one to survive the crash and wake up." John's mind was racing. This didn't make sense. No record of this planet, no report of other missions, and yet they knew his name. They entered another room, a circular space with a glowing pool in the center. The water shimmered with strange lights. The air felt heavy, like something ancient lived inside it. "This is the soul pool," Lyra said. "It remembers." Elira pointed to the water. "Look." John stepped forward. The pool rippled, and suddenly a face appeared, his own. Then another. A man, older, bearded, confused, scared. "Who is that?" Elira answered quietly. His name was Captain Eric Kane. He came from your world, almost 30 Earth years ago. John's jaw tightened. But that's not possible. Your world hides many things, Ilara said. And sometimes it hides people too. The image changed. Eric was in a room surrounded by the alien women. They touched his head. He screamed. Light poured from his eyes. The pool turned dark. John stepped back. What did you do to him, Lyra? Looked away. Ilara answered. He gave us knowledge, memories, life. But the process was not perfect then. John stared at her. You're saying you took his mind? We connected, she said calmly. Our kind cannot create life as before. We needed memory, thought, emotion. Only human minds had that spark, that chaos. John felt cold. So I'm just another experiment to you? Ilara touched his shoulder. No. You're different. The temple chose you. You're not here to give us knowledge. You're here to give us hope. Suddenly, a deep hum echoed through the temple. A light flashed on the far wall. A symbol appeared, an hourglass shape. Ilira's face turned serious. The time has come, the ritual must begin. What ritual? The bonding. John backed away. I didn't agree to this. Lyra stepped forward. We don't want to hurt you, but the temple does not wait. Once it calls, the process starts. What process? Ilara looked sad. You'll see, when the sun sets. John turned and ran, down the halls, past the glowing pool, through the liquid-like doors. His breath was fast, his thoughts louder. He had to find a way out, had to escape. As he ran through the temple garden, he heard whispers in the wind. He doesn't know yet. Should we tell him before the ceremony? He must not remember like the last one. John stopped. What did they mean? What happened to Eric? What would happen to him? He looked up. The sky was changing. 2 moons were moving into position. The air began to vibrate. Something was coming, and he was running out of time. Secrets of the temple. John ran until his legs burned. The temple seemed endless, its glowing walls shifting like a maze. Doors opened and closed silently. It felt alive, like it was watching him. He finally stopped in a quiet hallway, his chest rising and falling. He leaned against the wall, trying to breathe, trying to think, the bonding, the ritual. Eric Kane, the whispers. What were they hiding? Then he heard it. Not a voice. A hum. Soft. Deep. Mechanical. John turned. A small blue light blinked near the floor. It was a control panel, hidden under vines. He knelt down, brushed the vines away, and tapped the screen. Language. Unknown. He touched it again. It flashed. Suddenly the screen shifted to English. Data access. Restricted. Security override required. Override? John muttered. He stared at the symbols and by instinct, typed a code. It was an old emergency unlock sequence, taught during astronaut training, rarely used. The screen flashed again. Override accepted. John's heart jumped. That worked? A hidden door opened to his right with a soft hiss. Cold air rushed out. He stepped inside. This room was different. Not glowing, not warm. It was dark, cold, and metallic. The walls were lined with screens and old Earth tech. Rusted, forgotten. A symbol on the far wall stopped him in his tracks. The United Earth Coalition emblem. John's mind spun. This wasn't just a temple. This was a human lab. What the hell is this place? He whispered. He walked deeper. Broken helmets, sealed crates, faded flags with Earth's symbol, all covered in dust. On one screen, a name blinked in red. Project Eden. Phase 3, he tapped the console. Old video files appeared. The first one played automatically. A man in a white lab coat appeared. Human. Stressed. Tired eyes. Day 142. The female hybrids are stabilizing. Faster learning. Stronger bodies. But still no male survivors. Project Eden may be a failure unless Phase 3 begins soon. John's throat dried. Hybrids? Male survivors? The next video played. Day 185, we lost another subject. The bonding process melts the human mind. We need stronger mental hosts. We need someone with resistance. Someone like him. The screen glitched. Then a new image appeared. John Keller's file, his photo, his mission log. Everything. He stepped back in horror. They planned this. Suddenly, a voice behind him said, "Yes, they did." John spun around. A figure stood in the shadows. It was a man, older. Beard, pale, weak. John recognized him instantly. Eric. The man stepped forward, limping. His eyes were dull, as if time had drained them. "You shouldn't have come here," Eric said. "None of us should have." John helped him sit down. "What happened to you?" Eric looked at the screens. "I was the first Phase 3 subject, like you. They sent me here to test bonding compatibility. They didn't expect me to survive." John frowned. "Who is they? Earth?" "Earth's Black Division," Eric replied. "Secret programs. Not even NASA knew. This planet was designed, terraformed, seeded with DNA from failed human experiments. The women here, they're not natural. They were made." John's chest tightened. "Why?" "To create perfect life," Eric said bitterly. "Stronger, smarter, emotion-controlled. No wars, no chaos, just obedience. They thought female minds were more stable. And the males? Disposable." Eric's eyes darkened. They wanted to remove all instability, but they needed male minds for final testing, for memory uploads, emotional copying. They used us to feed the hive mind. John's hands curled into fists. "They tried to erase you." "They almost did." Eric pointed to his head. "I fought back. Some memories stayed. Enough to hide. Here. They think I'm gone. But the Queen, she always knew. She lets me live because she wants you now." John stepped back. "Why me?" "Because you're not like me," Eric said. "You're stronger. Your brain has the resistance they need. You're the final piece." The ground trembled. Lights flickered. "They've found you," Eric said. "You have to go. Come with me." "No," he whispered. "My time's done. You still have a chance." John hesitated, then turned and ran. He pushed open the hidden door and burst back into the temple hallway. Alarms were sounding, low, humming tones that made his bones vibrate. Suddenly, Lyra appeared in front of him. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "You knew about this," John shouted. "All of it, Eric, the lab." Lyra looked down. "I didn't want this life either." "Then help me." She looked into his eyes. "You don't understand. If you escape, the whole system breaks. The Queen will burn this place, down to stop you. She'll destroy the planet before she lets a man say no. Then let it burn." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me," she whispered. They ran together through a hidden passage under the temple, old wires, metal floors, broken android parts. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Finally, they reached a chamber. Inside was a single pod. Old, cracked, but alive. A console blinked. Emergency escape route active. "This leads to the surface," Lyra said. "Outside the temple's field." John looked at her. "Come with me." She shook her head. "I'm part of the system. If I leave, I'll die." John grabbed her hand. "Then we break the system." Suddenly, the Queen's voice echoed through the chamber. "John Keller, do not run. The bonding begins now." The lights went out. John jumped into the pod. The door closed. Lyra activated the launch. Before it fired, she whispered, "Don't forget me." And then, the pod shot upward into the red sky. Through the glass, John saw the temple. Massive, ancient, glowing with energy. Then it exploded. Fire and light filled the sky, and silence returned. But John knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The other man. The pod hit the ground hard. John's vision blurred as dust and heat filled the air. Alarms beeped, but the pod's shield held. Outside, fire rained from the sky. The temple behind him, the place where it all started, was gone. Destroyed in an instant, he had escaped. But he wasn't safe. He pushed open the hatch and crawled out. The air was thick with smoke. The sky, once purple, now glowed red. Something had changed in the atmosphere, like the planet itself was in pain. John looked around. The ground cracked beneath him. Power lines from the temple sparked and hissed nearby. Parts of the alien infrastructure were dying. The system was breaking. Suddenly, a soft beeping came from his suit, a signal, faint but human. His eyes widened. Another man. He followed the signal across broken stone, past dying trees and flickering machines. Finally, he reached an old structure hidden beneath the sand. A bunker, made of human steel, not alien stone. He climbed inside. Darkness swallowed him. His flashlight flickered. The walls were scratched with old writing. She lies. The temple feeds on us. Do not trust her voice. John's pulse quickened, then he heard breathing. He followed the sound into a small room and found him, another man, alive, chained to the wall. His body was thin. His beard was long. His eyes were sharp, alert. The man looked up. You're real, he whispered. I thought I was hallucinating again. John moved forward. I'm John Keller. Who are you? The man tried to sit up. Private Ryan McCabe, part of Mission Orion 4. We were told this was a science outpost, but it was a lie. John broke the chains with a tool. How long have you been here? Ryan laughed bitterly. What year is it? 2091. His face went pale. Then it's been 18 years. John stared in shock. How are you still alive? I shouldn't be, Ryan said. But the Queen, she kept me alive, studied me, scanned me, then threw me down here when I became unstable. Unstable? I stopped obeying, Ryan muttered. I started remembering things. The bonding didn't work on me the way it should have. They were afraid of what I saw. John helped him to his feet. What did you see? Ryan pointed to the wall. A blueprint for a god. John frowned. What? Ryan's voice dropped. They weren't just trying to make better people. They were building a new kind of mind. One that never dies. They called it Project Ascension. Human memories, emotions, instincts, all fused into the Queen's neural network. Every bonded man became fuel for her growth. Their minds didn't vanish. They were absorbed. John's stomach turned. So Eric's memories still live inside her, Ryan said. And soon yours will too, unless we stop it. The temple is gone. I destroyed it. Ryan shook his head. The temple was only one piece. The core is still active. It's buried in the planet's crust, deep beneath the throne. You killed her body, not her mind. A chill ran through John. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the bunker. Footsteps. Ryan looked up. They found us. John pulled him toward the exit. We have to move. They climbed out of the bunker and ran across the dead plains. The wind howled. Lightning cracked across the sky. Ahead, John saw something glimmer in the dust. A tower. Tall. Black. Untouched by the destruction. What is that? He asked, Ryan's face twisted. The archive. The original lab where this nightmare began. John slowed down. What's inside? Truth, Ryan said, and maybe a way to enter. The tower doors opened on their own. Inside, the walls pulsed with dim light. Not organic like the temple, but cold. Clinical. Earth-made. A screen on the wall flickered. Welcome, Captain John Keller. Identity confirmed. Access granted. A robotic voice spoke. Final subject has arrived. Project Ascension is now complete. John E. froze. What? Another door opened. Inside, a chair waited in the center of the room, surrounded by wires and glowing strands. Ryan held him back. Don't sit in it. It's not a chair. It's a receiver. Receiver for what? Your soul. John stared at the machine. A vision flashed in his mind. Alien hands on his face, light pouring into his eyes, memories slipping away. He turned back to the screen. Can we shut it down? Not from here, Ryan said. We have to go deeper, to the neural vault. They found an elevator that took them underground, hundreds of meters below the surface. Walls of glass revealed strange tanks filled with blue liquid. Inside floated human faces, dozens of them frozen in expressions of fear. Those are the others, Ryan said. The forgotten. John's fists clenched. No more. At the bottom they found the vault. A massive brain-like structure pulsed. In the center, thousands of data cables connected to it. John stepped forward. A console lit up. Override system. Insert authorization key. John looked at Ryan. What key? Ryan pulled something from around his neck. A small chip hidden inside. A metal tag. I took it before they locked me away. He inserted it into the console. The vault began to shake. Sirens blared. A final message echoed through the chamber. This will delete all linked minds, all stored consciousness. Do you wish to proceed? John's voice was cold. Yes. Warning. Deletion is permanent. Even yours. John hesitated. Ryan stepped forward. If you do this, you might not survive. John looked up at the tanks, at the faces, at Eric, at himself. Better to die free than live inside her. He pressed the button. The vault exploded in light. When John woke up, he was outside. The sky was clear. Blue. No fire. No sirens. Just silence. He was lying in the sand. Beside him, the tower had collapsed. The ground had stopped shaking. He sat up slowly. Ryan was gone. Everything was gone. But for the first time since he landed, he felt peace. He stood and walked toward the horizon, alone, but free. Chosen one. The sky was blue now. Not alien blue, not sickly, poisoned or artificial. Just blue. John Keller walked across the dead red sand as if the planet had taken its first breath in centuries. No alarms, no whispers in the air. The silence wasn't threatening anymore. It was peaceful. But the peace wasn't real. Not yet. Because she was still inside him. He could feel it. A quiet presence in the back of his mind. The Queen. Not whole, not strong, but watching, waiting. The vault had destroyed the hive network. Yes, but something had gone wrong. When John pressed that button, something had latched onto his mind. A fragment. A shard of her consciousness. Maybe it was his resistance that saved him. Maybe it was exactly what she wanted. He didn't know. But he knew one thing. He wasn't just human anymore. The days passed strangely on Zorana. Time didn't move like on Earth. The sun rose slower. The air hummed with soft energy, like the planet itself was stretching after a long sleep. John found shelter in the mountains, a cave with old Earth supplies left behind by the first missions. Enough to survive, but he wasn't alone for long. One morning, while gathering water from a crystal stream, he saw her again. Lyra. He dropped his canister. She stood across the water, her eyes bright, her body glowing faintly. You lived, she said. You too, John replied. Barely. When the temple fell, I lost my link to the network. It hurt. Like losing a voice in your head you didn't know was there. John stepped closer. But you're free now. She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at him. Not with fear, but with wonder. You changed, she whispered. John looked down. His hands were glowing softly. He hadn't noticed it before. Not fire, not light. Something deeper, Something alive. What's happening to me? Lyra moved closer. When the bonding failed, it didn't vanish. It settled in you. The memories, the knowledge, even her power. You carry it now. John stepped back. No, I shut it down. I killed her. You killed her body, Lyra said. But her spirit, the root system, still lives. It needed a host. And you were chosen. He didn't want to believe it. He didn't ask for any of this. But deep down he knew it was true. His dreams had changed. He remembered things he never saw. Ancient wars, the first bonding, memories of queens before her, and the future. A future where he sat on a throne, not of power but of decision, because now he was the key, not a prisoner, not a subject, but the first man to survive the bond and keep his soul. That night, the stars above the mountain began to flicker, not like stars dying. No, they were signals, a message. From Earth. John activated the old satellite link. The screen blinked and hissed with static. Then, a voice broke through. Captain John Keller, if you are receiving this, know that we are aware of your survival. Do not return. The project has been buried. All data destroyed. Zorana is no longer under human protection. Then silence. No rescue. No apology. Just abandonment. Lyra sat beside him, watching. They fear you now, she said. John nodded. They should. Days later, a ship landed. Not from Earth. Not from Zorana. It was sleek. Black. Human-designed. But different. From it stepped two beings. Humanoid. Tall. Emotionless. We are the inheritors, they said. Children of Project Omega. John raised his weapon. Never heard of it. You are the last thread, they said. You hold the hybrid code. We need it. Lyra stood between them. He's not giving you anything. The inheritors smiled without warmth. You misunderstand. We are not asking. They fired. John raised his hand, and the energy bent around him. The blast stopped mid-air, frozen like ice. His eyes glowed. White. You're not taking anything, John said. He pushed his hand forward. The blast reversed, hitting both attackers. They fell, twitching, then went still. John stood there, stunned. How did I do that? Lyra stepped forward. Because now you are more than man, more than subject. The bond made you the first true hybrid. John shook his head. I don't want this power. But you have it. They returned to the ruins of the temple. Beneath the ashes, the ground pulsed softly. Remnants of the Queen's root system, buried deep in the planet's crust. John placed his hand on the stone. Visions struck him like lightning, a new temple. But this time built by his hands. Not a place of control, but of balance. Human and Zerari minds, learning together. Creating. Not cloning. He saw children, half human, half Zerani, running under blue skies. He saw peace. But then, flashes of fire, warships from Earth, soldiers in black armor. One message repeated again and again. He is the anomaly. Cleanse the planet. John opened his eyes, gasping. Lyra caught him. What did you see? The future, he said. And a choice. John stood atop the mountain as a storm rolled in. Not natural, but artificial. A sign that Earth was coming. Maybe to erase him. Maybe to steal what was left. But he wasn't afraid. The Queen tried to use him. Earth tried to bury him. Both had failed. Now the power inside him was his to control. Not to destroy, but to decide. He looked at Lyra. It's time, he said. For what? She asked. To stop running. He raised his hands, and the sky answered. Light shot through the clouds. The mountain shook. Not in fear, in awakening. Because the man who had crashed on a forgotten planet was no longer just a man. He was the first. He was the last. And now, he was the chosen one. Rebellion. The stars blinked out one by one. John Keller stood on the cliff's edge, eyes locked on the dark sky above. He knew what was coming before it appeared. The air had changed, colder, heavier, not natural. Then the clouds split open. 3 Earth warships descended like shadows, black and massive, humming with energy. Their engines shook the planet. Flocks of flying creatures scattered. The ground beneath his feet trembled. John said nothing. He turned and walked back down the path toward the valley, toward the others. The rebels were waiting, not an army, not soldiers, just survivors. Broken, angry, scared, but ready. Zerari women who had lost sisters to the bonding, exiles who had escaped the hive. Even a few of the forgotten hybrid children, quiet, powerful, and strange. They all looked to John. "They're here," he said, "and they don't want peace." No one spoke. Some lowered their heads, others tightened their grips on old alien weapons. Lyra stepped beside him. "What do we do?" John looked at the people around him. "We fight. Not to kill, not to conquer, but to survive. To show them we are not experiments. We are not mistakes." He raised his hand, and the stone around them began to glow. Machines buried deep in the earth woke up. Alien tech. Forgotten by the Queen, now linked to John's thoughts. Energy towers rose from the sand. Shields hummed to life. Weapons emerged from the ruins. The planet itself was preparing to fight. In orbit, the Earth command ship watched. A cold voice came through the speakers. "Target identified. Anomaly confirmed. Proceed. With containment." Metal pods shot down from the sky. Black armored soldiers spilled out, guns glowing with electric blue light. They moved like machines, fast, silent, no hesitation. But this time, they met resistance. The rebels didn't run. John led from the front. He didn't need weapons. The power inside him had grown. When the soldiers fired, he waved his hand and the bullets turned to dust midair. "This is our world now," he shouted. "You had your chance." Energy exploded from his body, knocking back the front line. The ground cracked. Vines shot up, wrapping around enemy legs. The planet was listening to him now. Inside the command ship, General Corbin watched the chaos. "What? Is he?" the young officer asked. Corbin narrowed his eyes. "He's the next step, and we were too late to control him. Should we fall back?" Corbin shook his head. "No. Initiate Protocol 0. If we can't capture him, we end him." On the battlefield, John felt it, a sharp pain in his chest. He dropped to one knee. Lyra rushed to him. "What's wrong?" "They've activated something," he said. "A code. Inside me." He clutched his head. Buried memories surged. Flashes of training, hidden programming, sleeper commands placed in his mind back on Earth. If Subject Keller exceeds threshold, activate Protocol 0. Memory collapse. Neural burn. Total shutdown. They had planned for this moment. They built him with a kill switch. His body began to shut down. His vision blurred. The energy in his veins flickered. The soldiers saw him fall and charged. But then something unexpected happened. The hybrid children stepped forward, silent, calm. They raised their hands and screamed. It wasn't a cry of fear. It was rage, pain, rebellion. The air exploded with light. A pulse knocked the soldiers flat. Their machines froze. Their helmets cracked. John blinked. His strength returned. The children looked at him, not with fear, not with worship, but with trust. They had saved him. "They're immune to the code," Lyra whispered. "They were born free." John stood, and he wasn't afraid anymore. Inside the command ship, Corbin ordered the final strike. Planetary cannon, online. Fire when ready. A massive weapon unfolded beneath the ship, a sun-killer beam. One blast would melt half the surface. But before they could fire, the mountain roared. A giant stone structure rose from the peak. It wasn't built by the rebels. It had always been there. A last defense system, locked for centuries. Only one voice could activate it. John's. He stood at the center, eyes closed. Planet Zarana, you were never meant to die for someone else's fear. It ends now. The mountain cannon fired. A beam of white light shot into the sky. The Earth ship didn't explode. It vanished. A hole opened in space, swallowing it whole. No fire. No debris. Just silence. Gone. The battlefield stopped. The soldiers dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees, their neural links broken. Others just walked away, free, for the first time. The war was over, but the fight for the future had just begun. Later, under the night sky, John stood alone. Lyra approached him slowly. "You saved us," she said. He shook his head. "No, we saved each other." She looked up at the stars. "Earth will send more, someday." "Then we'll be ready," John said. "What will you do now?" He looked at his hands. The power still burned within, but calmer, tamed. "I'll teach," he said. "Guide the hybrids, rebuild the planet, not as a king, not as a weapon, but as someone who finally understands who he is." "And who's that?" John looked at her. "I'm not what they made me. I'm what they couldn't control." "Back to Earth?" The sun rose slowly over the scarred red hills of Zarana. It was quiet now. No machines, no alarms, no warships in the sky. But John Keller couldn't rest. He sat alone at the edge of the high cliffs, watching the light wash over the valley. Far below, the rebel camp had become a village. The survivors were building again. Homes, farms, schools. Not because they were told to, but because they chose to. For the first time in centuries, Zarana belonged to its people, and it terrified him, because in the silence he had time to hear it again. The signal, it returned 3 days after the final battle, but not from orbit. This signal was buried deep underground, beneath the Queen's old temple, somewhere even John hadn't searched yet. He went there alone, through the ash-covered ruins, past broken statues and shattered towers, until he reached the sealed chamber. It was still warm, still powered. His hand glowed as he touched the stone. The wall dissolved. Behind it stood a single machine, a black chair. Smooth, simple, elegant. And above it, a screen blinked silently. Incoming transmission. Earth High Command. Omega Secure Channel. John stared at it. His hand hovered over the console. He pressed play. A man's face appeared. Not military. Not a scientist. Older. Calm. Dressed in a dark suit. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't have to. "Hello, John. If you're seeing this, then you've become what we always hoped and feared. A completed hybrid. The only one." John's jaw tightened. "We lied to you. Of course we did. We lied to the world, to your family, to your crew. This mission was never about exploration, it was about creation, evolution, control." The man leaned closer to the camera. "But you escaped us. You broke the code, and that makes you dangerous, but also valuable." John's hands curled into fists. "You have 2 options. 1, remain on Zarana. We will declare the planet off limits. No one will touch it. You live out your days as a legend. We leave you alone. Or 2, return. We offer you full amnesty. No prison, no labs. Instead, we give you command. You lead the next phase of humanity. Because whether you admit it or not, John, you are the future." The screen went black. Just one word remained, accept one decline. John stood there for a long time. He didn't move. The air felt thin, heavy. What they were offering was everything: power, answers, home. But he knew the truth. Earth hadn't changed. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. And if he returned, they'd use him, until there was nothing left. He turned and walked away. Outside, Lyra was waiting. "You heard it?" she asked. He nodded. And? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "They offered me Earth." Lyra looked away. "Are you going?" He shook his head. "I was never part of their future. But maybe I can help build a new one here. Not a soldier. Not a king." "Then what?" John smiled faintly. "A teacher." Weeks passed. The village grew. John taught the hybrid children how to control their minds, how to fight, not with weapons, but with clarity, how to resist being turned into someone else's tool. They weren't errors. They weren't mistakes. They were beginnings. And then, on the 40th day, something unexpected happened. A ship landed, but not a warship, a civilian vessel. It landed quietly, away from the village, in the same spot where John had first crashed. John approached slowly, ready for anything. The door opened. A young woman stepped out. Not a soldier, not a spy. She was a journalist. Her voice shook. You're him, the man from Zarana." John nodded. "How did you find us?" "You left the transmission open," she said. "You wanted someone to come." John tilted his head. "Did I?" She looked around. "People think you're dead, or worse, but there are whispers, stories, and if they're true, then maybe you're not the end of humanity. Maybe you're the restart." He looked back at the village, children laughing, the sky clear, and for once, no voices in his head, just his own. He turned back to her. "Then tell them," he said. "Tell Earth the truth." "About what?" "About what we could have been and what we still can be." That night John walked alone under the stars, no longer searching, no longer hunted, just a man, finally free. Behind him, a planet healing. Ahead of him, anything. Epilogue. 2 years later, the room was full of light, not artificial, but natural, the kind that breaks through clouds after rain. In the center stood a large round table. Around it, humans, hybrids, Zerari elders, children, and leaders. And at the head, John, no longer glowing, no longer godlike, just calm, wise, listening. One child raised her hand. "What was Earth like?" John smiled. "Confused," he said. "Loud, broken. Do you miss it?" He thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but not as much as I feared." He looked out the window. Zarana was blooming. Green hills. New rivers. A planet once built for control, now free because one man crashed here and chose not to rule, but to rewrite the story.